Yes. Thank you very much, and welcome to tonight's council meeting, Monday the 24th of November. Welcome to our gallery and to those that are watching online. I'll start with the acknowledgement of country, diversity commitment and service acknowledgement, if you would like to stand. The City of Victor Harbor acknowledges the Ramangeri and the Narrangeri people, the traditional custodians of the land and surrounding waters where we live and work. We acknowledge their deep connection to country and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. This respect is extended to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across Australia. Would someone like to read the diversity statement? Thank you, Councillor Schiller.
The City of Victor Harbor is committed to diversity, equity and inclusion. We respect people of all ages, abilities, genders, sexualities, religions, beliefs, cultures and backgrounds.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kemp.
We recognise the brave individuals who have served and continue to serve our nation. Remember those who have lost their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice to our country.
Thank you. Councillor Burns.
Almighty God, we ask you to bless this council and allow it to be an agent of change to the people of this city and beyond. Direct and prosper its deliberations to the honouring of your name and the welfare of the people whom it serves. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. I've had one apology, and that is Councillor Schofield. I presume Councillor Karemba will be here and is running late. Councillor Kemp?
I believe he's an apology. He said he wouldn't be here, so...
I haven't received it.
Okay.
I haven't received any apology from him. We have an item adjourned or lying on the table, and that is a current motion before council that was moved by Councillor Quinton, seconded by Councillor Mann, in relation to the recreational boating strategy. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll continue with the debate, but given that it's been a month since that debate finished, if either Councillor Quinton or Mann want to enter into the debate, they are able to do so. So does anybody want to speak to this? Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to point out on page 9, where it says consultation, it says that the Marine and Boating Facility Working Group haven't had the opportunity to look at the changes. They actually did have a meeting to discuss it.
Yep, that's the old report.
Yep.
So that was correct with the old report. So if you read page 6 where it says commentary subsequent to adjournment,
Okay.
that will advise you that the voting group did have a look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
It was interesting, the part of that commentary said that the advisory group members felt that selective excerpts from previous studies may prejudice the public perception of Eastern Ramp projects. Therefore, and specifically the short and long-term impact of seagrasses and habitat for sea dragons and a wide range of sea life would be assessed as part of the preparation of the environmental impact statement. I'd like to know why, and perhaps Jodie may be able to answer that, that was left out of the public consultation report, given that that's an important point for the public to be aware of.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, back to yourself. So the strategy isn't a repeat of the previous documents that have been undertaken. It's just highlighting the need for the infrastructure and what would need to happen to achieve that. So it's not repeating all the information that's been included in the previous work.
It just seems to me that that's important information for the public to be aware of when they are looking at the strategy. And I'm concerned that the advisory group felt that it might prejudice the public perception, where in fact it's an actual concern that there will be an impact on seagrasses and habitat. So that's just my view of that. Are there any further discussions, Councillor?
So I just wanted, if I could add some clarification. I was actually at that discussion. What they raised was that there was a conflict from previous reports, which were quite dated. One of them apparently said there were no seahorses in that particular area. And they felt that by getting an environment study will show the current environment and impact, because there appeared to be conflicting information. I think that was their intent, not saying that there wasn't seahorses there, but they're saying that the reports being relied upon were very old and they needed a new environment study to actually understand. It's not saying that there is or isn't, but one of the reports said that it wasn't, and the other reports were even older again. So it was highlighting that they really need to have an environment impact study to actually ascertain what the current situation is.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Quinton.
Thank you. Just to add some clarification around this matter. So just to summarise, I do think it's really important to include these comments from the botany study that was done by professors from the Adelaide of Uni. There were some really key findings in there. And also just to clarify, the words aren't my words or administration words, they're direct quotes from the study, the scientific study. I'd also note that the advisory group don't want it included because it may change people's perception of the risks around doing a second boat ramp. But again, I feel like that's essentially lying by omission. You've got to have the facts present. Otherwise, the community can't make an educated, informed decision about what's right for Victor Harbour. So, I'm glad that we are back at this point, and I hope that we can get these comments included because they are very important. Thank you.
Did you want to do an amendment to they are in here? But they're in here. Okay. All right. So they are in the current motion on the floor. Just to
Yes. Yep. So I'm happy to back up my moving.
Councillor Kemp.
Yes, it's an interesting document with those notes in there, because I think when you think about it, you know, this strategy is a step towards a blue water economy for the Victor Harbour region and the southern Fleurieu. Any development along the coastline will require an environmental impact statement, which will identify all these issues, and of course that will determine what gets built or doesn't get built in that space. So I don't think we need this type of rhetoric in the strategy. I think because, you know, there are mechanisms in place will ensure that we have these things in place prior to making any decisions on any future development.
Councillor Henderson.
Well, I think it's extremely important to have these statements included. The Department of Environment and Water, when they surveyed all of the seagrasses along all of the South Australian coast, identified that particular patch of sea meadow as one of the most important in South Australia, and the most important certainly before you get towards the Victorian border. So it's extremely important that people are aware of that. It's a significant environmental area for all kinds of marine and sea life. It offers protection. It's where many of these sea creatures breed, and it would be absolutely terrible if we were to lose it.
So Victoria's just reiterated to me that The debate was adjourned last time because this was not in. It went back to the committee who wanted it left out, but it is still in, and this is what we are debating now. Okay, so if the recommendation is carried, it is in. That's if people understand. I think I wasn't clear as to last month's debate and this month's debate, whether it was in and out, but it is in. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Quinton, you did speak before, but you, as I said that you could, but you also moved the debate. So I'll give you a second chance if you would like to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll close it off. So I just want to address a couple of the comments in here and just say I do recognise that the members of the boating and recreation boating group are experts in their field of boating, but they're definitely not marine biologists or marine botanists or environmentalists or environmental scientists, I should say. So it's important, again, just that we deliver all the information that we have available into the document so that people can make an educated, informed choice. I think the algal bloom has really highlighted the important relationship between the economy and the environment. And certainly I'm very passionate about making sure that we do make good environmental choices, because ultimately it will dictate the future of our economy. So again, just I'm Switzerland with it. I just want to make sure all the information is on hand for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the debate. I'd like now for all those in favour of the motion, those against, that's carried. Thank you. We now go to minutes of the previous meeting, and the recommendation is that the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th be confirmed as true and accurate. If someone wants to move, thank you, Councillor Schiller, and seconding Councillor McKenzie. Do either of you have any questions about those minutes? Does anyone have any questions? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that we've got two deputations. I think it's really important that our community is able to come and talk to us about matters that are important to them. The first deputation is from Mr. Keith Climpson in relation to a request for a second dog park. Mr. Climpson, you have 10 minutes to talk to council, and that includes any questions that councillors may have for you. So you've talked to us before, you know how it goes. If you press the button on your microphone so that it's on and we can all hear you.
Yeah.
And then you can start.
Yeah, I hope I can do it in 10 minutes. Excuse me, I've still got a bit of a cold. I've come here today on behalf of a friend of mine, Mr. Peter Watts. He's got MS and he's confined to a wheelchair. He's very nervous about, he just couldn't come along tonight because he'd be shaking. It is a bit of a very formal setting, so it's a little bit of a traumatic experience, I suppose. Yes, anyway, he'd like me to read this out for him. He started off, "Thank you, Keith, for helping me in providing a deputation regarding the construction of a new dog park in Victor Harbour. The existing dog park in Victor Harbour is a long drive from my house. I am no longer fit to drive. I can't walk very far as I'm confined in a wheelchair due to a progressive health condition. Because of this, I would like to apply for having another dog park built possibly at Wattle Reserve or somewhere nearby, where there is a good area for dogs to run, so they won't have the situation that I find myself in with the council inspector repeatedly and covertly observing me from behind shrubs and trees at Wattle Reserve and from around the side of the toilet block at Bridge Terrace when I'm on the beach. Some of the ladies that I talk to told me about the inspector who keeps watching me from the toilet block. He has filmed me with my dog Barry, but he has never spoken to me. And now I have received 2 expiation notices. One of the fines is about a dog at large, and the other is about dog feces not being picked up. My dog is always within a short distance of me when I'm on the beach. I go to try walking in the sand with my walking sticks. So if I fall, I won't hurt myself. Also, it is part of my daily physio exercise routine. Hopefully one day I can get to the point where I can walk again, but being constantly watched and sometimes photographed makes it fairly difficult for me to complete this task. It makes me nervous. What council is allowing the ranger to do to me seems like constant harassment and intimidation. No one should constantly be watched and at times filmed. Barry, his dog, has his breakfast in the morning and then he goes to the backyard for his toilet break. That's our routine every day, and we do not leave the house before he goes to the toilet. I've cleaned it up. It's very difficult to pick up dog feces when you're in the wheelchair, but I do manage it. I go to the beach to exercise both my dog and myself, and I would like to continue to do that without being harassed or filmed. I love to watch my dog run on the beach and swim in the river, drink water, and just generally see him enjoying himself. If he wanders, I call him back quickly as I use my whistle, and he always obeys the commands. He has been professionally trained to obey verbal commands and/or whistle. I think what the council ranger is doing is inconsiderate, is not doing my mental health any good. The constant stress of the ranger's actions causes me physical shakes, and I believe it makes my health condition worse. I'm asking council to please allow me some normality in my life by letting me and my dog be able to exercise in an area that is both safe for myself and for my dog and for other dog users. So please, another dog park, and hopefully one that is close to where I live. Thank you. Peter Watts, 23 Ives Crescent, McCracken. Now, at the time when I wrote this letter, I didn't know I'd be making a deputation. And this was to the inspector. Dear Mr. Dabovich, and I'll praise this a little bit. The allegations are concerning to both
Mr. Climpson, so I'm sorry to interrupt you. I understood that your deputation was about talking to council about the need for a second dog park.
That's right.
And council can't comment about any expiation notices or anything that's going on in relation to your friend. I'm more than happy to hear you in relation to a second dog park and any arguments that you may have for us in terms of why that's needed. However, I must ask you to refrain from talking about what may be happening or not happening in relation to any expiation.
Okay, well, if you listen to what I'm going to say, maybe it'll make sense.
I'm happy to continue to listen to what you say, but I will stop you if you go into that.
That's very kind of you.
Room.
Right. Okay, I'll miss the first bit out, because I suppose I'm running a bit short of time. I should like to state that Mr. Watts introduced me to Wattle Reserve as an alternative to walking along Bridge Terrace when I used to walk my dogs until the algae bloom outbreak. The algae bloom outbreak resulted in repeated severe nosebleeds for one of my dogs, and Wattle Reserve seemed a good alternative option as it's farther away from the shore and does result in my dog experiencing nosebleeds when walked in that area. Unfortunately, walking my dogs along Wattle Reserve has now become a problem, as my dogs were in the process of re-entering my car following a visit to this reserve. A male person approached me and in a rather unpleasant manner told me that I was breaking the dog regulations by dogs needed to be on a lead at all times and that his pay rates of over $3,000 a year, and why should he have to put up with people not obeying the regulations? That's fact. This is why I'm asking about another dog park, okay? I've since checked the council pamphlet information for dog owners. And of course, I'm quite entitled not to have my dog on a lead while I'm Wattle Reserve. But I don't want to go down there and have someone harass me, because he's undoubtedly complained to the inspector. And of course, the inspector then starts issuing final warning notices and then expiation notices, just as Peter has explained. I finished off by saying, in order to avoid further unpleasant behaviour from the quasi-observer of dog walkers at Wattle Reserve, I've avoided walking my dogs there for the time being. I do not know the name of the male person who harangued Peter Watts and myself. However, I can describe him as an elderly Caucasian man who regularly walks 3 dogs wearing red coats along the reserve. This is why I feel a dog park at Wattle Reserve would be a good idea. So we could all go along. The elderly Caucasian man wouldn't have to go in the dog park. He can walk all over the rest of the reserve. Anyway, if I'd like to give my little take on the situation, and not just Peter Watts, I've still got time. 2 minutes, okay. Well, I've lived in Victor Harbor for 7 years. I started off living at Bay Road, and I used to walk my dogs down Bartel Boulevard, walk along the beach. Sometimes there was so much seaweed down there you couldn't actually walk along the beach. So walking the beach there became a bit of a problem. I now live at Grantley Avenue, and I thought, oh, everything would be wonderful. I can walk my dogs along Bridge Terrace on the beach there. Just the last few weeks, that's been smothered in dying and decaying seaweed. So I started to get a bit of a cough. I think quite a few of us maybe have coughs and colds, and could be just the change of climate. I don't know. Or it could be the algae bloom. Apparently there is a sickness called algae bloom sickness. Who knows whether I've got it or other people get it. So maybe some of you might have picked up a bit of a cough, a sneeze. Could be algae bloom sickness. I like to walk my dogs at one time down by the Encounter Centre. The grass has never been cut down there. It's a snake hazard. The last time I went to see the vet, she told me that she'd treated 3 dogs this year. 2 she'd saved and 1 had died through snake bites. So that's why I think we need a second dog park.
Thank you, Mr. Climpson. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Climpson? Mr. Burns?
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. I have noticed some challenges walking my dog. I used to regularly walk along the bike track, but it's getting quite busy, certainly in the better weather. And a lot of the roads, there's been increasing cars. So I've been starting to go to the dog park, which I really like because it's separated with big dogs and small dogs. But I notice it's getting very crowded now, especially from people from all over Victor. And I don't know if that is because they're not walking on the beach anymore or what the reason is, but I would be interested to see if we can get statistics as to, is it just a weather-related thing or is it busy all the time, if there actually is a need for a second park? I don't have enough time.
My understanding from talking to people at the dog park, that depends on what time of the day you go.
True.
There are two areas in the dog park there. And I know that on Friday afternoons, there's a group of dog owners that go there and have pizza on the bench, and their dogs play. But other times, when you go past, there may be 1 or 2 dogs or no dogs at all. It's not very busy. But we can certainly ask Dustin for some.
Could I just mention this, Mayor, please? And
I can give you 30 seconds and that's it.
Right. Did you know there was a fatality in the dog park?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Councillor Quinton.
I'll just say quickly, I think think a second dog park in Victoria is actually a really good idea. I can say firsthand the dog population down here is definitely growing very quickly, and will continue to, I reckon. So dog parks do provide a really generally safe environment for dogs to run off lead, and definitely for Mr. Watts. I think I know his dog well, and that that would provide a really good solution. I can't imagine they would be hugely expensive to set up. It would probably be the changing the zoning, I'd imagine. So maybe we could look at putting something forward down, soon down the track.
I'll ask Victoria to get some statistics from Dustin, who's the team leader, who's in charge of the dog park. No, you've finished. Thank you. No, you've finished. Thank you. And we can also look at what the cost of was, the cost of actually building that other dog park, our current dog park, and what the estimate might be. Thank you. We have a second deputation here, Mr. Brenton Scott. Mr. Scott, please come up to the chair. I think that your microphone still might be on, so you don't need to switch that on. And Mr. Scott is talking about the retention of the bin at Haywood Court. You may remember that we removed a number of bins. The one at Haywood Court is actually still there. It hasn't been removed as yet. When Mr. Scott has finished his deputation, if we go to item 18.1, which is on page 279, that actually relates to the bins. And we have a couple of people here in the gallery that are interested in that item. Mr. Scott, you have 10 minutes, which includes questions from the elected members. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council this evening concerning the proposed removal of the Haywood Court public litter bin. I speak on behalf of a number of the residents of Haywood Court. I'm very fortunate, excuse me, to live in Haywood Court with spectacular views across the bay to Granite Island, the town of Victor Harbour and the Bluff beyond. In my opinion, it is one of the best views in the area. In addition, Haywood Court has a lawn reserve which includes council-provided picnic table and seating, car parking, as well as stair access to one of the best and safest beaches for families in the area, being Hayborough Beach. Haywood Court is also a no-through road and is part of the Encounter Bikeway, which makes it a safe and popular destination for many families, locals and visitors. As a no-through road with spectacular views, in my opinion, and beach access to Haywood Court is heavily used by the following groups: cyclists and walkers, locals and visitors who drive in and park to sit and take in the views. Many also sit in their cars or use the picnic table or lawns to eat meals. Most of the food consumed is takeaway fast food, such as KFC, Hungry Jack's, etc. Dog walkers, third category would be dog walkers who generally drive in and park to take their dogs for a beach walk whilst utilising the council-provided dog poo bags. Fourth category being in warmer weather, especially during holiday periods, families drive in and park to swim at Hayborough Beach. They invariably take food and drink to consume at the beach. Often you cannot easily get a park in Haywood Court, as it is a very popular location with a safe beach. The vast majority of these visitors to Haywood Court arrive by car. This point will become relevant when I talk about the public litter bin policy shortly. This is a very important distinction in my view. The above groups generate litter and waste, which is generally deposited into the public litter bin provided. At times, litter is left lying around and is picked up by Haywood Court residents. Fast food packaging and containers generate by far the greatest volume of rubbish deposited into the bin. Fast food is unfortunately the food of choice for many people these days. As well as the unhealthy nature of fast food, a great deal of waste is generated. This waste poses the greatest risk to the environment if not disposed of properly. Other users of Haywood Court include residents, ratepayers, and Airbnb stays. As there are only 10 properties in Haywood Court, this is not a high use group. As a no-through road, Haywood Court sees little residential waste being deposited in the bin. In my 6 years residing there, I can only remember one occasion that rubbish was dumped next to the bin. I believe that residential use of the bin is low risk. I review the September council meeting minutes, which includes the public litter bin audit summary, as well as extracts from the council's public litter management policy. This policy states that the bins to be removed are 1, not located within walking distance of a possible source of litter, origin litter, 2, not located near barbecue facilities, and 3, do not have an on-site facility causing a gathering of residents. The policy also states that the bins to be removed are located close to residential streets, which encourages household waste to be disposed of in them. In response to the Council's public litter management policy, I make the following points. Firstly, Haywood Court is a heavily visited destination location reached by car by the majority of users who generate litter and waste. The walking distance requirements of the policy is irrelevant and inappropriate in today's society. Unfortunately, many people do not walk distances. Further, Haywood Court, as I mentioned earlier, is a destination location generally reached by car. Secondly, the lawned area, picnic table and benches are heavily used by picnickers, fast food consumers and visitors in general. There are also stairs to the beach. Surely there is discretion in the policy to consider that the facilities provided be included as eligible facilities. Thirdly, the stair access to the beach is heavily used by locals, dog walkers, families and other visitors, all of whom generate waste which is deposited into the bin. Surely this is a facility that causes a gathering of people. It is my contention that the Haywood Court public litter bin must be left in place as, whilst it does not meet the extremely narrow public litter bin policy, it is an extremely high use area where a lot of waste is generated, as detailed earlier. Visitors will not take this waste away with them, resulting in the pristine environment being polluted. This is not a desired result of the bin removal. I understand that the council wishes to encourage visitors to take their waste home. In the ideal world, this may work, but we do not live in the ideal work, and unfortunately, bins are required for waste to be disposed of in the area visited. The alternative of not having a bin is not desirable. I appeal to you all as councillors to allow the Haywood Court bin to remain for all the reasons stated earlier. The removal of the bin will have an undesirable impact on the local and surrounding environment. Haywood Court is a special destination and we as residents are very proud and fortunate to be able to live there. Please do not remove the bin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor Burns.
Thank you. Just for clarification question, and thank you for your deputation. Just clarification, is it's residential parking in that court or is it public parking or combination of both?
It's public parking in that court.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
As I stated earlier, in warmer weather, it's extremely busy. You just can't get a park there.
Yep. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
Councillors, if we can move to item 18.1, which is a motion on notice from myself. And the motion is that Council amend the decision made on the September the 25th. So if you go down to option 1, which is the same basically as what my proposed motion is. So we amend that motion, which is actually OC2 642025, to remove the bins from a number of different places. Some of these I've had very similar issues brought to my attention from residents who live down there. A number of those for the Matthew Flinders Drive ones, I think, have got tables next to them, picnic tables that people sit on, or either tables or picnic chairs that people sit on. And the residents have noted that the bins are getting full. The other one, which actually isn't in there, is the bin in Bartow Boulevard, which is fairly close to the cafe. And as you know, Bartow Boulevard is, especially in summer, a lot of people going down there and entering the lake. So I'd actually like to add an F to that, Bartow Boulevard. So you've kept the one at the top of Bartow Boulevard? Right. So it's the one down at the end of Bartow Boulevard, which is fairly close to the which? At Giles Street. Yep. So I'd like to move that we amend that motion to remove those bins: Jeffrey Drive, Encounter Bay; Belmont Street, Encounter Bay; Haywood Court, McCracken; Matthew Flinders Drive, Encounter Bay near Allen Street; Matthew Flinders Drive, Encounter Bay near Victor Avenue; and Bartow Boulevard near the water treatment plant. And then if that is carried, it will cost, there'll be a budget increase needed of $4,000 in the operating budget to put those bins that have been removed back. And so we'll then go to that third recommendation. So would someone like to second my recommendation?
I would like to move to adjourn this item and look at each of these bin locations in isolation from one another and determine what their uses are.
So we have a formal motion to adjourn the item. Do you have a seconder for that? Hang on. I need a seconder first before we can adjourn it. So Councillor Schiller, you seconding the motion? Thank you. And then Councillor Henderson, you're moving an adjournment. Councillor Quinton, you're seconding the adjournment?
Okay, yep.
Well, no. Sorry, I thought that's what you were doing.
I was, yes, but did Councillor Schiller do it first?
No, Councillor Schiller seconded the motion.
Yeah.
And now we've got a formal motion to adjourn it by Councillor Henderson, and I need a seconder for Councillor Henderson's formal motion. You're seconding that? Thank you. We now will vote on the formal motion to adjourn this motion. And just informing you that if we adjourn the motion, it'll come back in December. The bins won't be reinstated if the motion gets through until probably late January because of the Christmas break and people being away. And so that will be one of the results of adjourning this motion for now. So I'm just letting you know that so that you have all the information in front of you.
Got a question.
Your question?
Do we have any capacity to workshop this between now and then?
Between now and
December.
When?
So we can actually sit down and discuss it in
Victoria?
Through the Mayor, we do have workshops scheduled on the 8th and the 1st of December, so we can probably include it in those. We'll just have to extend out those workshop briefings. So we can, no doubt, have a discussion about it before the 15th of December meeting, noting there is a shorter turnaround because of the meeting is sooner in the month. But we do have briefings on the 8th and the 1st already scheduled.
Okay. Thank you. There's no debate on formal motions, but I accept questions that are not rhetorical questions. You have a question, Councillor Burns?
Yes, thank you. If it is adjourned, as you said, even if we have a workshop, it's unlikely we will get replacement bins until January or later.
Yep.
So they're going to go through the whole summer period without those bins being there.
Well, when you say the whole summer extends past January.
Yeah, January,
as I said, they'll probably
Christmas
won't
period.
be until, yes.
Okay.
So we're now voting on the adjournment. All those in favour? Those against? That adjournment motion is lost. We now go back to the original motion, and the original motion being to amend the decision made at the last council meeting, option 1. I've moved that and Councillor Schiller has seconded that. I think I've spoken enough about it. Councillor Schiller, do you want to speak about it? No, does anybody want to speak to it? Councillor Quinton?
Just to say that I do unfortunately feel like we made a mistake moving to remove these bins in the first place in hindsight. It seemed, like it had merit at the point, like trying to reduce waste and make sort of positive changes that way. But every morning I go down for a swim and even though there's a public bin about 50 metres away, I'll still pick up 10 bits of rubbish every day. So it's kind of made me realise that sadly people will probably just end up littering more if there's not public bins available. So I do feel like we need to address all of the locations that were originally described, but for the time being, I would be happy to change it so that we can at least get the ones you've highlighted through.
Thank you. I don't think I need to close the debate. I think enough has been said. So I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Can we now move to recommendation 3, that council approve a budget increase of $4,000 to the 25-26 operating budget for the purpose of reinstalling the public litter bins at the following locations. Now, I note that location C, Haywood Court, McCracken, that bin is still there, so it doesn't need to be reinstalled, but we're probably going to be adding the Bartow Boulevard bin down the bottom in its place. Would someone like to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Burns, and seconding that. Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Any debate? Councillor Kemp?
Just a question about operating budget, versus capital. Surely this would be a capital budget being an asset of council, even though it's a minor asset.
Through the Mayor, unfortunately, it's not. A capital item is something that's going to last longer than a year in terms of this is actually operating time. It's staff putting the bins out and reinstalling the bins, so it's more of an operating cost.
Just a question to the finance manager or yourself, the CEO. Are we that tight in our budget? We can't find $4,000 within our $38 million budget?
Through the Mayor, it's not to say that we won't find it, and we will find efficiencies and savings, but I currently don't have an item. The council specifically dictates every single item and project that I am actually working on and administering. At the moment, I don't have a line that says I'm going to reinstall bins because I had a previous decision that I had to remove them. So it's more of formality that I am following the council's decisions.
You had a question, Councillor Quinton?
Sorry, I got a mouthful of muesli bar. Just a quick question about the cost, because it's obviously an expensive oversight that we've made. How much did it cost to have the bins removed?
Thank you, through the Mayor. The removal cost was less than the reinstatement cost because it's predominantly labour. We've taken out foundations, so the cost of putting them back in is recasting the concrete slabs. The actual bin surrounds have been placed up the depot so they can be put back in, but that's the main cost of the labour is the concrete slabs that they go in.
And I understand that some concrete slabs are still there and some have been removed.
Through the Mayor, yes, that was taken into account, and the individual costs for each location have been assessed based on what the condition was, whether the bins are when they were bin stands or bin surrounds, and whether they had foundations or not.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Councillor Burns, do you want to close the debate?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think it's important that we regularly check the bins, and whilst as Councillor Quinton said, it may have been a good idea to try and change rubbish behaviours. Obviously, it also has to be balanced with common sense, and we need to look at those locations that are heavily utilised, not just for residents. And if that necessitates bins or even more bins, then we need to consider that.
Thank you. So I'll now ask for a show of hands for recommendation 3. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to Mr. Scott and Mr. I'm just trying to remember your surname. Mr. Scott and the other gentleman who have come here to listen to this this debate and who have brought it to our attention the difficulties that our last decision has made for you. We appreciate your input. So, councillors, if we now move to, there are no questions from the gallery and there are no petitions. So if we go to item 9.1, which is outstanding resolutions, the recommendation is that council receive and note the report. Would someone like to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And seconding that, thank you, Councillor Burns. Do either of you have anything you want to talk? Yes, Councillor Henderson.
I'd like to inform the chamber that, referring to item 1 there, I have been re-elected to the Australian Coastal Council's Association Committee of Management as one of the 2 South Australian representatives.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to actually say that there were 2 South Australian representatives for the Australian Coastal Councils, yourself and Keith Parkes. And congratulations on being renominated and put on the committee. I think you do a great job. Any further comments, Councillor Burns?
Just to say I'm happy with resolutions and again to thank the CEO for including dates. They're really helpful.
Anything else? I'll now put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. We go to financial statements and the recommendation is that council receive and note the financial statements reporting an operating deficit of $822,000 and an unmodified audit option for both internal controls and the financial position of council. Would someone like to move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And seconding that, please. Thank you, Councillor Mann. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Henderson? Councillor Mann? Does anybody want to speak to it? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be voting for the financial statements. I just was hoping for our next meeting that the CEO may be able to provide some feedback on a couple of points. In reading through these, I noticed that the number of employees leave balances are quite high, and I'm assuming there's a leave management plans to reduce balances.
There is, and that's been talked about in the audit committee on a number of occasions.
Great, thank you. The other is the asset renewal funding deficiency. The ratio, again, there's reference in the audit committee as well, is 61, which is below the target of 90. And also the Technology One system limitations led to some post-valuation data errors that were manually corrected, but it did do some misclassifications of cash flows and misallocation between the renewal versus updates. And I understand from the reports they've been corrected. Asset disposal and revaluation errors. There was some cash flow issues which have been corrected, but it's good that they're in there. Some of them have been corrected. Some of them, obviously, we need to just get assurances with our oversight that they're being addressed. That's all.
I think as the organisation has moved from one system to another system, it's, there will be, as the system gets to know itself, there will be modifications that are made and glitches that come up at the beginning with the new Tech One system. That's the audit committee is quite happy with the financial statements and what's been happening. Is there any further discussion? In case, I'll put that to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. We have the budget versus actual analysis. then that again has been to the Audit and Risk Committee and been adopted. The recommendations that council receive and note the report and attachments. If someone would like to move that way. Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And seconding, please. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Do either of you want to speak to this? Does anyone want to speak to this? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'll be voting to support this. I do note that it's gone through the Audit and Risk Committee. There were some positive aspects in this analysis, especially the reduction on reliance on CADs and fixed loans, I thought was good. Cash position was also looking good, but I will be looking forward to the continuance of these reports because there was identification of asset renewal. There was a underinvestment in asset renewal. Work in progress, there was uncompleted projects and budget forecasting. Even though it was endorsed by the Audit and Risk Committee, there were some challenges with forecasting and whilst the adjusted surplus ratio was within target, which is great, it was only after excluding major projects. So I just want to see the next reports coming in to see an improvement as it goes through. But in regard to this, it was explainable, and but having that oversight, I just want to keep a watch that it's all still being addressed.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The annual report, which you would have seen at the back, it's attached. And the recommendations that council adopt the annual report as provided. Thank you, Councillor Schiller. And seconding that, please. Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Do either of you want to speak to the annual report?
Just as very thorough, and congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Does anybody want to speak to it? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Reading through the annual report, I was quite happy with the content. I just struggle because I don't believe the subsidiary reports that are attached with this necessarily reflect their actual situation, specifically the horse and Tram, which I'll talk to later when we get to that. But the rest of it I was happy with. So other than that, I would have voted for it, but I can't in this instance.
Any further discussion? I'll put that to the floor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. And once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to the staff who I think every year go out to improve the annual report, and it is really clear and concise and easily explained what we are up to and what we've achieved and what we are wanting to do going forward. So Victoria, if you can pass on the council's thanks to your staff, that'd be great. The September budget review and the recommendations that council approve the 25-26 September budget review, providing a net capital expenditure of $16,520,800 and an operating deficit of $4,105,600, noting it has been reviewed by the Audit and Risk Committee. Someone would like to move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And seconded, please. When you're taking a long time to second and move things, and we're going to be here a long time if people don't participate. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Mann. Do either of you want to speak to it? No. Does anybody want to speak to it? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I appreciate the work the CEO has put in this and the finance manager especially. I would normally really try to support this, but I still can't where we have a high deficit. That's my only concern.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The asset accounting policy 9.6, the capitalisation thresholds. And the recommendation is that council approve an adjustment to the policy, increasing the capitalisation thresholds for assets categorised as furniture and fittings, given the high increase in furniture and fittings. You're moving that way, Councillor Schiller. Thank you. And seconding that, please, Councillor Burns. Do either of you want to speak to that? Councillor Burns.
I think the logic in the commentary made sense, and it is also what most of the other councils in South Australia are doing. Prices go up and you need to adjust accordingly.
Anyone else wants to speak to this? I'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 9.7, council-led petition to state government stamp duty exemption for first home buyers in regional South Australia. This has come back from the meeting last month, and we have a recommendation, option 1 or option 2. Would somebody like to move? Braden?
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I'm happy to move on block the recommendation 1 about receiving and noting, and then also the option 2 with a slight amendment to point E, which currently says approves the $3,000 increase to the operating budget to be approves the $10,000 increase to the operating budget.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Quinton. Braden, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion in this chamber already around our stamp duty advocacy and how important it will be in, I guess, encouraging younger people to stay here or to move down to Victor Harbor. Currently, there's no stamp duty exemption on existing homes, and Victor Harbor and regional communities in the mix don't get as many new developments catered for that younger demographic. You know, we see a lot more retirement villages going up in the last few years or announced. We see major developments where the purchase price for the land is unattainable to a first home buyer. And what I've seen is so many friends and young people I know, they've had no choice but to buy existing homes, to borrow the funds to pay the stamp duty, and then they'll have to spend a lot more money, time and sweat to renovate the property. This is an advocacy effort because we've had no luck in going through the formal channels with the LGA or straight to the government. And this is around how we can get 10,000 signatures or hopefully a lot more, and to put some pressure on the state government to remove stamp duty for first home buyers on existing homes on the first $750,000, because if someone's buying a property at that amount, it'll save them $35,000 of stamp duty, which will honestly lower that barrier to entry for so many young people. Now, I see that the administration have done a fantastic job in putting together a plan around how we get these signatures, and the budget they've put to that is $10,000. What they moved in terms of option 2 was looking at a reduced plan of $3,000, so there'd be less cost to the community in doing this work. Because again, this is something we're trying to achieve for the state, and I appreciate that it shouldn't just be the Victor ratepayers who, again, there's not as many first home buyers fronting that bill. And what I've talked about with the CEO is if we can increase it to the 10,000, I'm happy to voluntarily waive my allowance for the next 5 months to then fund that additional $7,000, so we can get to that full $10,000, but there's still only that $3,000 cost, because as we all know, with being a councillor in local government, most of your salary or your allowance ends up going to the federal government. So this would be doing me a favour in that sense of effectively not having to put the next 5 months aside just to pay that hefty tax bill. So hopefully the plan is the cost of the community will just be that $3,000, but we'll have $10,000 worth of value in getting those signatures. And I really just implore the council to support this, and for the community and the rest of the regional communities around our state to get on board, put some pressure on the state government, and hopefully we can affect some change. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Quinton, do you want to speak to this? Does anybody want to speak to it? Councillor Burns and then Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Mann's correct. There's been a lot of discussion and debate in the chamber around this. I'm supporting this initiative because I believe any option to try and reduce the cost of entry for first home buyers in rural areas is really important. And as Councillor Mann has pointed out, that if you're buying established homes, obviously you need a lot more money and people who are buying them can afford it, which therefore pushes out first-time home buyers. Cost of land is increasing in rural areas, similar to what it has in Adelaide, and I can just see it being extremely hard for anyone probably under 30 trying to do anything other than rent, and even rent's going up. So I'm supporting of this.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller.
The concept is great. I voted in favour of our previous resolution, which was that we try and seek a sponsor through either our local member or another member in a different council area. And that was a much different recommendation to what we have here before us. I've had other recommendations that have come past that I feel are more of a state-based decision, and lobbying is one thing, but to spend $10,000 worth of ratepayers' money on a state-based issue, and then we also have to take into account that we're going to use the resources of our staff on top of that. I think the iterations we've had previously I've been happy with, but I'm not happy with committing ratepayers' funds to a state decision not directly related to Victor Harbor specifically.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Councillor McKenzie.
I'm happy to support this motion. I think it is a really important thing that we're trying to achieve here, especially attracting people to give back to our communities. So yeah, I can see Councillor Schiller's point of using our staffing resources and some of our taxpayers' money for this, but there is a long-term, I guess, return in that. And I think if we can achieve what $10,000 would achieve in a $3,000 contribution, that's even better. So I amend Councillor Mann for what he's trying to do here, and I think it's really positive.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Mann, we'll go back to you to close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, no, thank you very much to the Chamber and the support. And I completely agree with Councillor Schiller's point around spending $10,000 to try and sway the state government or an advocacy is a lot of funds. And I guess that's part of my reason why I'm wanting to, while I will be voluntarily declining the next 5 months of council payments, so that at least we're getting $10,000 worth of bang for buck towards this, but only spending that $3,000. And I think it's more than justified to spend $3,000 on something like this, based on where we've got community plans, UGMS, we're developing a future-ready strategy that all points towards doing things that will help attract and retain a younger demographic and lower our average age. I would much rather see 5 months of council allowance go towards this, something that I care about and passionate for, than go off to the federal government to be spent in another state. So I appreciate all the points shared. I think this is just one thing that we're trying to do and will be doing to push for change. And whether it's successful or not, who knows? But I think we don't want to sit on our hands and just let change happen to us. We have to be a part of it, and we have to be advocating for our younger demographic if we're wanting them to know that we care about them, that we want them to stay, that we want them to invest and move into our region. I think this sends a clear sign that we're trying to do that too.
Thank you. I now put the recommendation to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. We now move to the reviewed emergency management policy 9.8, and the recommendation is that council adopt the policy as provided at attachment 2. Would someone like to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Kemp. And seconding that, please, Councillor Burns. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Kemp? No, Councillor Burns.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Reading through it makes sense to deal with the extreme weather events that we've been experiencing, and I think the plan's very straightforward, so happy to support it.
Anybody else want to speak to it? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. (9.9) is the review of the serious incident response policy. This is one of a number of policies that we need to review because of the new Aged Care Act that has come in. And so the recommendation is that council adopts the reviewed policy as provided at attachment 1. Moving that way, Councillor Henderson. And seconding that, please, Councillor Schiller. Do either of you want to speak to that? No. Does anyone want to speak to that? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The Building Fire Safety Committee, the recommendation is that we dissolve our current committee effective at the end of December and endorse the establishment of the Fleurieu Regional Building Fire Safety Committee from January the 1st to the 31st of December 2029. Would someone like to move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Seconding, Councillor Henderson. Do either of you want to speak to that? Does anyone want to speak to that? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. In principle, I understand what's being asked here. I just have concerns about the ability of a regional-wide committee to assess risks in Victor. And I think that having experienced the Building Safety Committee's work over the last few years on council, that I think it's much better served by having a fire safety committee locally. I'm concerned of how they can assess so many buildings regionally, and also the amount of travel required. And also that in the documentation, whilst there were some compelling arguments, there wasn't any real qualification of the improvements that this committee, being regionalised, would actually deliver, specifically in will it improve the number of assessments it does by a certain percentage, or because there is a backlog of work currently, and I wouldn't like to see that decline. So I won't be voting for it, unfortunately.
Any further discussion? Councillor Kemp.
Yes, I do have some concerns along the lines of ability of the regional committee being staffed with the right type of people. It's noted in the commentary here, but the MFS person can't attend all the areas of inspections. I know Victor Harbour most probably be okay, but I'm concerned about that having a regional type committee may be stretched a little bit far to get everything done, what they need to get done in 12 months and come back for secondary type assessments as well. So I won't be supporting this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, no, I'm completely in support of this. I think that the more that we can work with our other regional councils to partner and to deliver services or regulatory services like this one together, the better, because effectively we are constantly being handed more and more responsibilities. The governance, the regulation is getting more and more. And as opposed to everyone having the burden of doing it themselves, I think the more we can start thinking regionally and working as a team with our fellow councils, the better the outcome for the community and also in those cost savings and efficiencies as well. So no, I think the presentation we had jointly with all the councils, or we had about this and the joint proposal, I think is certainly worth it, and very happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Schiller?
I'm in total agreement with Councillor Mann on that front. We had a workshop on this and we've headed that way with our CAP, and it seems like a logical way to create I guess it's also looking to make sure we get a quality candidates on that committee, and I think by having a regional committee we're more likely to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Mackenzie, do you want to close the debate? No, I'll put it to the floor then. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, 10.2. So we now move to 10.2, amendment to fees and charges, the Bluff boat ramp car park, and the recommendation as read, and this is in relation to the state government's commitment to the algal bloom summer plan. And the algal bloom is still out there. Talking to Councillor Quinton beforehand, who went for a surf down at Parsons today, there's certainly lots of foam around and lots of irritation. So someone like to move that recommendation as read. Thank you, Councillor Burns, and seconding that, please, Councillor Kemp. You want to speak to that, Councillor Burns?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think it's an important amendment to align the fees, but also to acknowledge the impact that it's having on the people who use the boat ramp. So I'm supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Councillor Quinton?
Just want to ask a question. The lump sum grant of $23,075 from DIT, will Victor Harbour Council receive that grant regardless of if they waive the boat ramp fees or not?
I can, through the Mayor, so that they are instructing us we cannot charge any boat launching fees, and that is the amount that we would have normally, based on a couple of years of income, received for boat ramping fees. So we won't be taking any income from the boat ramping facilities, and that is a replacement of those funds.
Councillor Mann?
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, question first off. Am I correct in understanding that we might have the only boat ramp in, I'm not sure the area, that you can actually go fishing from?
That is correct. And this is what we've highlighted in the report, is that we've also talked to the state government. We'll do a fair bit of a promotion in regards to encouraging boat users to look at our CCTV cameras to see how busy they are. We'll put up signage and communication around other parking. We are unsure whether there's going to be an influx of people going fishing because of the bloom, but we are one of the only boat ramps that will have fishing accessibility.
Second question to that, is there any way we can monitor or track the amount of boats and users that come through that period? I know it's usually from getting the ticket, which again, we won't be doing, but I guess that additional strain that it has on, if we've got the entire state coming down here because it's the one spot they can fish at, puts strain on the infrastructure in terms of the sand and the sediment and dredging costs that may result down the track. I'm not sure how big it could be, but if there was a way we could at least monitor it or just in case things do pick up and we can go back to the state government and say, hey, this is a significant imposition on the community. And I'm sure we'll hear about all the many boat trailers going probably all the way down in Canna Bay. But I think, yeah, if we can monitor that, that would be good.
And that will be our absolute intention. And we've already had some discussions of how best to do that, either through our public safety officers, through the CCTV cameras, but also just through that promotion of just people being considerate, taking their time to have a look ahead, see what the traffic's like in terms of boat launching numbers. And we will monitor it, and we'll talk to the state government and to council if we come across any challenges.
Thank you. Councillor Burns, do you want to close the debate?
Close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? Sorry, can we just do that again? All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. We move to corporate and customer services and the optimisation phase for the corporate systems. The quarterly summary, and the recommendation is for council to receive and note the report if someone would like to move that way. Councillor Burns. And seconding that, Councillor Kemp. Either of you want to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to thank the IT manager for a good report. It's much better getting quarterly updates, so I appreciate it. And thank you to the CEO. So.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp? No. Does anybody else want to speak to this? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Environment and infrastructure, the one-way traffic proposal on Almond Avenue, following the consultation. The recommendation is in 5 parts. And I'll do those on block unless anybody wants them to be separated. You want them to be separated?
Yes, I'd like to discuss number 5 separate, please. The rest can be on block, but number 5 separate.
Yep, sure. All right. So I'll do recommendation 1 to 4 on block. Moving that way, Councillor Henderson. Thank you. And seconding it, Councillor Burns. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Henderson? Councillor Burns?
No, other than we've had some good information provided to us previously, and I think this is the direction it needs to go.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to it? In that case, then I'll put it to the floor. That's recommendations 1 to 4 on block. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Recommendation 5 is that council approve an increase to the 25-26 operating budget of $10,500. Does someone want to move that way? Councillor Henderson, and seconding that. Councillor Schiller. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Henderson? No, Councillor Schiller? No. Councillor Kemp?
Just a question to start with. How critical safety-wise that we need to do it this financial year, or can it wait to the 26-27 financial year? Another 6 months won't be a big problem, I would have thought. So it's really critical that we need to do it?
No, we're just responding to the request from the residents of that street and based on the council's decision, but not critical. It's been in its current state for some time. It can wait if that's the choice of the chamber.
Yep, I won't support this because I feel that it has been a long time coming in respect to the residents, and I do understand they're wanting this done sooner than later. But again, another 6 months, and I'm not in favour of increasing operating budget into more deficit when, you know, these types of projects can wait another few months. If there's actual critical data saying it was totally unsafe, you know, accidents were happening, all this type of thing, yes, fair enough, we'll support it and do it. But I think, you know, at this stage, it's a very narrow area. It's very slow driving around there. So I think it could wait another 6 months and be put into the next year's budget.
Thank you. Any further discussion? In that case, I'll put it back to, do you want to close the debate, Councillor Henderson? Do you want to close the debate? No. I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's lost. Do you want to make an alternative motion in relation to putting it into next year's budget, Councillor Kemp?
No, I believe Director Roberts can put it in the next year's budget. quite easily. Are you all right, Jody?
Yes. You don't need a motion to do that? No, beautiful, thank you. We now come to item 12.2, which is Oliver Parade Landslip. We had a workshop on this, and that the recommendation is that council endorse the preparation of a budget bid for consideration as part of the draft 26-27 budget development for the design and construction of a turnaround zone in the unmade road reserve adjacent to Oliver's Parade with improved stormwater management, and that administration start consultation with property owners. Someone would like to move that way, Councillor Henderson? And seconding that, please, Councillor Burns. Councillor Henderson, do you want to speak to that?
As you said, we had a very good workshop on this and looked at various options. So I think we should go ahead and prepare a budget bid.
Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. There's been a lot of discussion about it. It's something that needs to be looked at to mitigate the ongoing risk there. But I'm very comfortable because it will be going in next year's budget provision rather than this year.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak to this? If not, I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 12.3 is the draft environmental management plan. Recommendation is that we receive and note the plan and that council adopt the plan provided at attachment 1. So I'll do both of those recommendations on block. Councillor Henderson moving that way. And seconding that, please, Councillor Kemp. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Henderson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, like the annual plan, this plan is very clear, concise, well laid out, easy to read and easy to understand.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp?
Yes, I echo those sentiments from Councillor Henderson. I think that, again, we are moving in an area which our community expects us to be moving and looking at our environment, and there's lots of opportunities coming up in the future about improving our environment. So I'm looking forward to how we implement this plan and moving forward.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I was pleased with the changes that had been implemented, and that made it better for me to support it. So I was happy. On page 165, there's a number of updates in there from our previous discussions, so that's good to see.
Any further discussion? I'll put it to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The draft asset management plans. Council endorsed the proposed changes to the Capital Works Program appendices of the City of Victor Harbour's asset management plans as provided in attachment 1. Would somebody like to move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Mann.
Could I move something slightly different, please?
You could.
Just after attachment 1 stating with the amendment of Glenvale Road ceiling being brought forward to design in 26-27 and construction 27-28.
I'm just wondering whether or not, and I'll take some advice on this, whether or not that changes the intent of the recommendation, because
It's just a recommendation.
it is just a recommendation, but the intent of the recommendation is to endorse proposed changes. You've put something quite specific in there. So we may have elected members wanting to endorse the changes in attachment 1, but not necessarily the changes that you're putting forward. So I'm just wondering whether or not.
Then it would be lost, and then you can put up the original one if that's the case.
I'll just get some advice on whether it changes the intent of the recommendation.
So through the Mayor, given it was Councillor Mann is the mover. It's his motion. So it's not an amendment. We put forward a recommendation so members can choose to move that or not, or create their own motion, because he's created his own motion. It starts from scratch. There's no difference.
Yep, thank you. All right, do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Mann, do you want to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, no, well, as we'd all be aware, the Glenvale residents earlier this year did a full petition with all the residents signing it. They brought it to council, did a deputation as well, and we said we'd consider that as part of September asset management review. I felt we probably didn't look very closely at moving that around, and I think it's sort of reflected in the report of maybe it's something that can be considered in the future. And I think that when we have residents who go out of their way to do petitions, to come to council, to try and engage with us and advocate for what they described and what are genuine safety concerns, I think it's worthy that we look at responding to those concerns, and this brings that forward and acknowledges that consultation. Again, we can put it in here for 26, 27 and 27, 28. But my experience on council is it very well could jump out another 2, 5, 10 years, depending on priorities. But I think we at least owe it to those residents to acknowledge it and to put it in the management plans here. And whether it happens in those years, it'll be up to the council at the time, and also up to effectively the residents in continuing their advocacy. So that's the reason.
Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie, do you want to speak to this? Does anybody want to speak to this? Councillor Kemp and then Councillor Burns.
Could you just please read out the motion again so it's so I can understand? I can't read it from here, so.
Council endorses the proposed changes to the Capital Works Program appendices of the City of Victor Harbour's asset management plans as provided at attachment 1, with the amendment, and this is what's been added, with the amendment of Glenville Road ceiling brought forward to design in 2026-27 and construction in 27-28.
Just a question before I'll move a second amendment, if I may, but I'd like to ask the question about the McKinley Street car park's been moved out to 28-29. What is the current date prior to this motion?
Through the Mayor, it was in 26-27, 4 million.
I'd like to move a second amendment.
That wasn't an amendment. It was a motion on itself. So this would be a first amendment.
Oh, that's right. First amendment then. I'd like to move a first amendment to retain McKinley Street car park, have no changes to the date of 28-29, but still have it in for 26-27. The reason why I'm asking for that is because we know that the Anchorage development will go ahead in time, and I believe our last update was that the design plans and proposals was quite close to getting lodged for approval. So I'm thinking if we move it out to 28-29, then if it does go ahead in the next 12 months or 2 years, we have to bring it back in again. So I'm just wondering, just save some embarrassment by just keeping it in there and hoping that the Anchorage project will go ahead in the next 12 to 18 months, and that will suffice and stick with the plans. Thank you.
If the McKinley Street car park's already there in 26-27, I'm not sure that putting an amendment that it stays in there. Yeah, can you speak to that?
So Councillor Kemp is correct. In the previous asset management plan had it in 26-27. We have pushed it out through our discussions at our workshop to 28-29. That has been based on discussions, and yes, we do hope that the Anchorage development will come to fruition, but we also know that even if a development application is lodged or something started, it would be at least 18 months before construction, and the car park would be the last component of the actual construction. So we know it's not going to be needed, those funds, until 28-29. So they're still in there. We know they're needed, but based on the discussions we're having, it will be a later part of construction. We don't envisage them being drawn upon next year at all. They would no doubt be later on in terms of the development of the size of that development as well. But surely up to you as the mover of the amendment if you wish to keep moving it forward.
Do I have a seconder for that amendment? The amendment lapses for want of a seconder. We go back to the original motion. Does anyone else want to speak to the original motion? Councillor Mann, would you like to close the debate? Oh, sorry, Stuart.
It was just a clarification question. With the amendment that Councillor Mann is proposing, what is the likely cost of that? And can that cost be offset by some of the assets that are being moved to a different financial year? So we may end up not actually.
That amendment was lost, so we're not discussing it.
Oh,
It was
okay,
for what?
sorry.
The Glenvale Road one, you mean?
Yes.
Or the, oh, beg your pardon.
Yeah. No, I was talking about.
Oh, that's what you're
Councillor
talking about. Sorry, I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about the amendment.
No.
Jodie?
Through the Mayor, the estimated design cost is $68,000 with construction of $490,000. So you could, if this is adopted as part of the asset management plans, then as part of your capital budget review, you can look to see whether all of those projects are delivered, or if some of the extra budget bids don't come forward because you haven't got enough in your budget.
Councillor Mann, would you like to close the debate? No, I'll put this to the floor then. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. (12.7) Amendment to dedication purpose, Hindmarsh Falls. We've done 12 point. Oh, I beg your pardon, I've skipped. Draft. Oh, sorry, I've missed that one. Okay, 12.5, I beg your pardon, 40-kilometre area speed limit, Hayborough, consultation. The recommendation being that council endorse public consultation in accordance with the communication and engagement plan to seek feedback on the proposal to implement a 40-kilometre area speed zone encompassing all local roads within Hayborough. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Schiller. And seconding that, please. Councillor Kemp. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Schiller?
Just that I think obviously we're just consulting at this point in time, but I think in the future we will see a lot more residential suburban areas reverting to 40-kilometre zones. So this is something that will be a future part of the landscape.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp, do you want to speak to this?
Just a question first, please. In the outstanding resolutions, there is a motion there about council doing a complete traffic management of speed limits throughout the city or its area. So again, I'm just wondering how long away or how far away is that to be done? Because I see this as a patchwork quilt, doing suburbs here and there where we could do a complete traffic management and then make the whole city 40 Ks or 30 Ks or whatever people want in their area.
Through the Mayor, that question actually also got raised by Councillor Schiller about a whole of city traffic management study. And I am yet to discuss it with Graham Pathouse because it would be part of our UGMS. Because obviously as we grow as a city and we look at those areas, we'll be looking at housing strategy. We also need to look at a review of our traffic management study across the city where areas are growing. But that would be another piece of work to come to council. It is one of our strategic projects. It would be coming to council for further budgeting.
Look, I support this recommendation that we do look at for public consultation to get some feedback on speed limit changes in complete suburb. That might be an indicator of how the community feels about. Don't mind a couple of streets, but whether it's all the streets, that's another matter. So I will support that to see what the feedback is from the community.
Thank you. Councillor Mann?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I guess my concerns with this, and I think back to former councillor Tim Glasbrook, I feel like I remember him going on about the ring road and how council created the ring road as an express way to get from one end of the town to the other, and already what we're seeing is just the speed limit getting slower and slower, and that quick zone getting smaller and smaller. And when you look at the UGMS and the Greater Adelaide Plan, it'll get to the point where the whole thing's a 60 zone or a 50 zone, if that. And our town might not be expanding outwards, but it's going to take longer to get from one side to the other. And I think across this council term, I know the council or certain elected members have preference safety when we've been looking at road speed limits, and I think that's definitely an important factor. My worry with looking at this approach or looking at a whole suburb of making it 40 or just based on some concern that's come from a community or resident, literally I think the first few sentences of the report is the concerns were raised because you had school kids walking on the road. I think the solution shouldn't be, oh, we'll just lower the speed limit, but how do we get the kids off the road and onto a footpath instead? So I think it's, I appreciate and agree with Councillor Kemp's view of let's not look at it just by piecemeal of, okay, we'll make this street 40, but then the next one's 50, because I know it's the same. I think it's the same in McCracken at least, and you just randomly hit a 40 sign. And so I think in this approach and taking into account, I guess that, I'm not going to be in support of this.
Thank you. Councillor Quinton?
Similarly, I'm not going to support this one. I think it's just going to be too confusing going from a 40 to a 50 to a 60 to an 80 to a 40. It's just, there's too many speed limits within the city of Victor Harbor, which I think is just going to be an avenue for more revenue raising with speed traps and everything along the way. So I think at this point in time, 50 is adequate, and don't see the need to change it.
Any further discussion? Councillor Schiller, do you want to close the debate?
Just the comment about slowing down our speeds. I think you'll find that the roads that are chosen are quite suitable for the 40-kilometre zone because they are residential roads. They aren't arterial roads. So clarifying that the roads that we're looking to reduce the speed on are not our arterial roads. Using something like the ring road isn't appropriate because I'm not looking to change the speed limit of the ring road at all. I think it's comparing apples with bananas, basically.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. That closes the debate. I'll now put the recommendation to the floor. All those in favour and those against? That motion is lost. Six. 2.6, additions to fees and charges, sale of curbside bin latches. So the recommendation is endorsing the addition of the latches to the fees and charges register to be sold at $10 inclusive of GST. Would someone like to move that way, please? Councillor Mackenzie. And seconding that, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Mackenzie, do you want to speak to that?
Just to say that this is a great little piece of technology to stop the wind opening the bin lid, and being more accessible to having more places that you can purchase this from is always positive.
You, Councillor Henderson? Anyone else? Councillor Kemp?
Thank you. Currently at the moment, the council pays for replacement of bins. That was the motion that was passed a while ago, if that's correct. So will council replace the latch on this bin if the ratepayers buy it? Will they replace the latch at a cost of $10 per bin?
Through the Mayor, I wouldn't see the latches breaking. Like if the bin need to be replaced, they take the latch off and put it on their new bin.
I just think because we've got this program in place where we now support our community by replacement of bins, I just think, how much would it cost? Because I wouldn't have thought that all the ratepayers who's got bins in Victor Harbour would actually buy a latch. It'd be a small number, I would have thought. So I don't see a great cost of us providing that as a service, as part of the bin replacement program, because it is a part of the bin. So I just I won't support the $10, but I do support the latch as a good idea.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Quinton?
I'd like to adjourn this, if I can, please. I actually feel that the council should provide each one of these latches to every bin, like every ratepayer with a bin, to be honest, because they're going to stop a lot of litter blowing across the streets, and it's actually going to make a really positive change, I think, to the whole community. So I'm a bit on the fly at the moment, but I think maybe we could adjourn this one for a month. Give us a chance to workshop or get a bit of a budget cost together to see how much increase in cost that's going to be, if everyone's in favour.
Do I have a seconder for that adjournment motion? Councillor Burns? Yep. Can you make that adjournment come back in January? Because we've only got 3 weeks before the December meeting. So you happy for that? So adjourn until January. And you happy for that, Councillor Burns? Thank you. I now put that adjournment motion to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Quinn, do that again. I wasn't sure if that was your hand going up or for the for or against, Councillor Schiller. For, okay. So thank you. That's carried. That adjournment motion is carried. 12.7 is the amendment now to the Hindmarsh Falls. And I'll do a recommendation A and B on block. And I'll take that as read. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Henderson, and seconding that, Councillor Burns. You want to speak to that, Councillor Henderson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would just like to remind the other council members that I do actually chair the Native Vegetation Council. So the application for the heritage agreement will come to myself and other members. However, I don't believe I have a conflict in this chamber. The conflict will come at the other end, and I will not be part of the assessment.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Do you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Henderson? No. Does Councillor Burns, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As discussed previously, there was a good reason for this amendment going in, and hopefully the other councillors will support this.
Thank you. Councillor Mann?
Thank you. Yeah, just a few questions to administration first. So the neighbouring property pretty much is there's the Hindmarsh Valley National Park, which was created in 2021. I went looking for an entrance last weekend. I couldn't quite find one. Is that currently open? What's happening with it? It's public land but not accessible?
Through the Mayor, that's state government land, not council land.
A national
And
park, though.
I understand that there's been some discussion about changing the entrance. There's been designs done, and they're looking at an alternative location for the entrance at the moment.
Okay.
Hasn't officially been opened as a national park yet.
Okay, that's why I couldn't get in.
Yep.
That's fair.
Maybe don't try.
Yeah. What I did do though is go to went to the Hindmarsh Falls, which is we spruik on our tourism website as a must see, and I saw some people rock up and they were there for all but 20 seconds, because you pull up in the car park. If you drive up, you get out, you walk down a few steps, and there's a little kind of sad lookout with sort of overgrown trees, and you see the falls. And I think I completely agree with the intent of this motion and what we need to look at in terms of protecting that native vegetation. But I just think we have to be careful with something like this to lock in those excluded zones and exactly where it is, where what could be a massive tourism draw card for our town is looking at how is there possibility to connect the Hindmarsh Falls with the Hindmarsh Valley National Park when the state government get their act together and open it up, and look at what that connection could look like. Because I think if we go ahead and get that heritage agreement over it, there'll be no way to connect it. They'll just be separate things, and you go and have a look at the waterfall. But I think if we had a walking trail network that then connected to a waterfall, I think there's a lot more scope for something like that. So my preference would be to defer this motion, but I'll let Jodie speak to it first and she'll correct me on anything.
Through the Mayor, Council have already endorsed the application to Native Veg Council for the Heritage Grant. This is about changing the dedication of the land so that we can apply for the grant. So we could do this after we've applied for the grant, but we know that through Crown land things take a long time, hence why we're getting in front. So we already have a council recommendation to apply for the heritage agreement.
But I guess this is needed to get that agreement?
Through the Mayor, it could be done afterwards.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is there a way we can defer locking in? Because this is pretty, as I understand it, there's setting out excluded areas where it's pretty much off limits, where I'm looking at, can we wait? Because I imagine it's still going to be there, nothing's going to change, but wait until we can look at with the government how we can allow for connection potentially with the massive 423 hectare national park that's going to be next door. So if stopping this allows for that, I'm happy to do that. If we can do that with this going ahead, I'll be.
Through the Mayor, the current dedication is a public pleasure resort, and we're planning to change it to conservation.
Yeah, okay. So I guess what you're just confirming, so where it's got the little map where you've got the excluded areas and then you've got the national, the reserve effectively, you're saying that this could still go through and we could still look at making changes to that native veg. Let's say you need to pull out a few little plants just to make a pathway. Could that still be possible?
Through the Mayor, that question was asked at the last report that went up, and the response was that we could, but it would have to go through the Native Veg Council to remove. Like you can apply for anything.
Yeah, but
you just have to. Even now, with the native veg that's there, we still need to apply for approval for removal.
You don't look clear.
Yeah, I guess in terms of, this question to administration, so I'm clear, is if we went ahead with this, are we still able to look at connection in terms of a trail connection with the Hindmarsh Valley National Park, or would this make it harder to be able to do that?
Through the Mayor, this is for the dedication purposes, not for the grant. So the grant, the actual heritage grant would be the one that would make it more difficult, not the conservation, changing it to conservation.
So it's not going to make it more difficult?
Not this decision, the decision that's already been made. But that grant application is not going to go in until about March next year. So
we could pull back on
you could get work done before then.
Through the Mayor, no, because there's already native veg there. So anything we do now would still need to go through the approval process. It's unlikely to make it more difficult. It's that we can get money to help with the weeding.
I think the CEO knows the intent of what I'm looking for here.
I can see what you're looking for. I actually don't think what this is doing is going to stop what you're trying to achieve. Just because it's a conservation park or a national park doesn't mean that they can't ever connect or we can't have walking trails through them. It's just how you go about them and where they're positioned. The whole idea of conservation parks and national parks is that it doesn't exclude public, doesn't exclude accessibility. It's just about people appreciating what they're for. Usually when they're more frequented, they're better protected. So
perfect. No, thank you for that. I'm happy to support it then.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Schiller.
I had a bit of a chat to Sophie about this recently at another meeting. Yeah, I'd like to, in the future, look at trying to improve the amenity of the Hindmarsh Falls. The fact that you do just step down a few steps and this is strange with a blind woman saying, but the view is impeded by trees. But if we could possibly improve the walkway down there and find a better vantage point that was a bit more spectacular, that's still not looking gaudy and like unnatural, but providing a better vantage point to see the falls at a more spectacular location further down, because now that it's been cut off, people go down there anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Schiller. Any further discussion? Councillor Henderson, do you want to close the debate?
I'll just add that heritage agreements come with long-term management plans.
Thank you. That closes the debate. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 12.8 is the increasing the heads of agreement for the precinct. And the recommendation is that council authorises the CEO to execute the heads of agreement for the Regional Community Sport and Recreation Precinct with a revised expiry date of 28th of February. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Schiller, you're moving that? And do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Schiller?
Just that last time round I was in favour of going for February 28th, but we other people were keen to see things move quicker, but I think this was the logical time to allow us to get what we needed done, so I'm happy to support this extension.
Thank you. Councillor Mackenzie?
I'm also happy to support this extension, being the time of year, people having time off and going away and all that. It's definitely hard to get anything across the line in December. So, yeah, appreciate the February timeline.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Kemp and then Councillor Burns.
Yeah, just a question first to Director Pathouse. For this type of construction or approval process, what's the standard timeline? 6, 8 weeks? For this to go through, because it depends on, well, I guess the first question is, has he lodged anything yet? If not, I guess if they don't lodge it before Christmas, then the end of February may not be a good time.
Through the mayor, no, nothing's been lodged yet. The timeline depends on the completeness of an application. Could be anywhere between 6 weeks and 6 months. It also depends on whether notification is required and if there are any representations that have come in, which always extends it as well, because then it needs to go through the development assessment panel processes, and in this case that'll be the Fleurieu Regional Assessment Panel.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm sort of in two minds about this, because as we keep changing the heads of agreement and moving it out further and further, the costs are rising, and it's getting to a point, that, the cost of the community is going to get greater and greater. And I have concerns by that, especially with the fact that we won't have no ownership of this or no equity in the construction of the site at all. All we have is an expense. So I think we've done our due diligence. I think we've gone coming up to our 3rd year, and I think, how much longer do we keep pushing this, where we could start putting our energies into a community-based built facility which we would own, and of course would contain the land. We won't lose that as well. So I won't be supporting this.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a good read through this, compared the original heads agreement with the current one, and I can't support it for 3 reasons. Number one, the changes and amendments since the original one have shifted the risk back towards council and public funding. It increases council's financial and operational exposures compared to the original. Secondly, the cost of development now makes this extremely unaffordable for the community. And the third reason is that it is extremely unlikely that council is going to receive any significant funding, 4 million or more, before the state election in March 2026. So I can't really see that the developer isn't going to decrease his costs. The state government are not going to give us the funding we want. The cost has been going on now for so long. I can't see the benefit in actually extending the heads of agreement with the amendments of the last discussions we've had in council. If we agree to this, we're agreeing to those amendments where we have an opportunity now of getting out, because I believe there's been a material change in the heads of agreement that would allow us to get out of this agreement without significant penalty. But yeah, I'm only one council. I've only looked at it. I'm sure everyone else has looked at it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Mann?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, no, I have to disagree with several statements there. I guess as we've been discussed, we're all very aware as to why we need more time to negotiate this and look into February, as has been noted about Christmas, but also about, we are also waiting for the federal government and state government funding. Now, I appreciate the state government with caretaker. They, again, may be less generous, but also a significant amount of the funding we're wanting. I think around the 2.5 was coming from federal government under the public-private partnerships grant funding stream, which we're hoping to hear back from any time now, noting it's been about a year that we've been waiting for that. I note the comments around, it's cheaper and easier and better if we do it in a traditional council built way. But we've seen how difficult it is and how long it's taken to get between $2 to $4 million out of the state or federal government. And we've looked at, if we had to do a community or a non-public private partnership method, we would need at a minimum somewhere in the vicinity of, I believe it was 7 to 11 million. I dare say a lot more with those construction costs. So I don't agree with a lot of those points. And I guess the reason I'm very happy to extend this is I think that we've had some very fruitful and excellent negotiations, particularly after our last discussion with the negotiating partner that we're with. And I think that we are getting very close, and I, as much as anyone, want to see this done as soon as possible. It has been a long decade, but I think we don't want to just come down this road and we're getting it so close and we're nearly there just to give up now or to say it's too hard, because I can tell you every other option to deliver a facility like this is going to be 10 times harder and cost 10 times more from both a capital and an operating sense. So I'm very happy to look at where we're at in late February. Hopefully we've got some federal government money. Hopefully we're getting some further down the road, but I think we are getting very close, and I think it's the final push. And I think I completely support administration in the work they're doing and the intense amount of work, because there's a lot happening behind the scenes, a lot of financial modelling, a lot of work to get us into the point where we can make a significant decision. And I think rushing them and giving them, here's 2 weeks before the agenda's due for the next council meeting isn't giving them the time, and it's not giving us the ability to properly analyse and look over that. So I think this balances waiting for that federal funding, balances those further negotiations, and giving council administration the opportunity to really unpack what those latest negotiations have led to and how that financial cost on the community will be. And so we can all balance it up and make an informed decision.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Does anybody else want to speak to this? No? Do you mind if I speak to this? Is that all right? Thank you. Look, I think that this has gone through a number of iterations, and we had a workshop just a couple of weeks ago, and I think, as Councillor Mann said, had a look at a number of different options that we've got. We've taken a lot more time because we have listened very carefully and done negotiations around the needs of the sporting clubs, especially the gymnastics club, and looking at different operational models that will actually allow the clubs to do what they need to do and to operate in the way that they need to operate. So this has taken a lot of time that we have put in, which is absolutely needed. We haven't wanted to rush, and we don't want to rush. So I think saying we're not going to to increase the heads of agreement, the revised date for the heads of agreement, I think is rushing us, whereas we don't want to rush. We've got some important decisions and we are coming to the pointy end. We have got to update the business case and we need to look at a preferred operating model, which we haven't done yet. So that's us holding it up, not the actual putting in the plans. We need to update the prudential report to reflect the new long-term financial plan. We need to have a special audit and risk committee meeting to look at all of these things before they come to council. So these are all things that we ourselves as a council have been extending the heads of agreement because of our needs and doing our due diligence, which I think is fantastic. So I think from my personal perspective, I don't think it's good to stop that extension of the heads of agreement and to rush through or to say no. We're getting to the pointy end. We have what we want in sight, and we've all done a huge amount of work, and the organisation, the operational team have done a huge amount of work, as have our partners that are doing the negotiation and doing all the work on the outside. So I think that we are going to be expected to complete this in January. By extending the heads of agreement until the end of February really ensures that we can get all of this done so that we can make an informed decision based on the plans that we're working on at the moment. That's all I need to say in terms of that, and thank you very much for letting me speak. The Councillor Schiller, do you want to close the debate?
Just to say, we're still just sitting at heads of agreement. We're not going anywhere with contracts. So I feel comfortable. We are starting to have to make some decisions soon, but I don't think it's unreasonable to push it out to that date.
I'll now put that to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Sorry, division? Certainly. All those in favour, please stand up if you're able. Councillor Mann, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Schiller, Councillor Quinton and Councillor Henderson. Councillor Burns and Councillor Kemp were not in favour. The motion is carried. We now move to 13.1, which are our minutes. Minutes of the CEO Performance Review Committee meeting. The recommendation is receiving and noting those minutes. Councillor Mann moving that way. And Councillor Quinton seconding that. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The Recreation Centre Management Committee advisory minutes. The recommendation is that Council receive and note them. Councillor Schiller moving that way. Thank you. Councillor Burns seconding that. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 13.3, Audit and Risk Committee minutes and meeting summary of the 3rd of November. The recommendation, there's two there, which I'll do on block, that Council receive and note the minutes and meeting summary, and that Council receive and note the 2024-25 outstanding debtors report. Being moved by, thank you, Councillor Quinton, and seconding Councillor Mann. Any discussion? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Other than one section, I was happy with the minutes, but I can't support it because the part where they went into confidence, I don't believe the audit chair followed the correct process. And I've got concerns about that, but everything else in there I was happy with.
You weren't there.
It was filmed. I watched the video. I know I wasn't there.
Was it filmed? Wasn't filmed.
It was filmed and I watched it.
Well, up to that point it was filmed and then it wasn't filmed.
Yeah, correct. But it was the going into the process.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Kemp.
Just a question on the outstanding rates of 808,000. Roughly how many ratepayers who are struggling to pay their rates?
Through the Mayor, we wouldn't know without asking each of them if they were struggling to pay. Of those amounts, there are some serial offenders, if you like, for want of a better word, in terms of people that are delayed in paying their rates. There'd be a number that are on payment arrangements, but they're still showing as outstanding at this point. But I'd have to drill into the data to get more information on that at this stage. It is in line with similar levels in other years.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? In that case, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 13.4 is the Fleurieu Regional Community Services Advisory Committee. Recommendation receiving and noting the minutes. Councillor Henderson moving that way and Councillor Schiller seconding that. Do either of you want to speak to that? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Subsidiaries and representative reports. We've got the Horse Tram Authority, and I'll do that recommendation A and B. If someone would like to move that way, thank you, Councillor Mann, and seconding that, please, Councillor Henderson. Do either of you want to speak to that? Councillor Mann?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. No, just to reiterate, I guess the fantastic job that our local authority does in the horse tram. Continually, year on year, they face a new challenge, and usually a lot of it is external circumstances. And again, as we've discussed, the algal bloom has presented another challenge, and they're working their hardest to overcome that. I think that, you know, with our new, I guess, different advocacy approach, I think it's been good to hear or get an update from the CEO that there's been some discussions and some progress happening in terms of whether the state government will come to the party with a one-off funding or hopefully continual funding, because as we're all acutely aware, it shouldn't just be on our local residents to fund such a major South Australian state icon. But I just want to note that, you know, as they've raised in there are some concerns, but I think that looking to do a workshop where we can all come together with the board, elected members, the auditors, and navigate what the challenges are and make a plan to go forward. And hopefully that plan also relies on a bit of state government funding as well, I think is a good approach to support them during this time and help them navigate and keep progressing well in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Burns? Oh, sorry, Councillor Henderson, did you second? No? Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be supporting this. I will speak against the motion to accept the latest quarterly financial report, and please bear with me. I try not to speak too long on this, but I compared the financial statements presented to us in October with those publicly available on the Horse and Tram Zone website, and I believe the financial situation is far worse than being reported. I looked at their operating position, their net deficit, their accumulated equity, their cash position, their balance sheet, and it's really concerning. It appears that it's more being funded off debt than it is off revenue earnings, which isn't sustainable. I don't understand how a statement can be made in the report that the horse and tram operations are solvent. I mean, on paper, if you are running a accumulated equity of negative 153, that's technically insolvent on paper. And at the October council meeting, horse and tram claimed losses of 130,000 due to the algae bloom, plus 40,000 of other impacts. Yet the CEO's submission to the Parliament Senate inquiry stated that whilst there was a decline in public attendance, the algae bloom had no impact on sales revenue. And then in November, we got further excuses had shifted again, citing sick horses and other issues. And I'm not saying that they weren't contributing factors, as the algae bloom was a contributing factor, but the narrative keeps changing, but the losses remain the same. And if this is a normal business under the Corporations Act, it would be in breach of trading whilst insolvent. And the council subsidiaries like Section 42 operate under the Local Government Act, which unfortunately permit it to operate in a deficiency, but only with council approval. And this exposes ratepayers to ongoing financial risk unless we as elected members act. We faced a similar situation with the Fleurieu Aquatic Centre, where persistent losses led to council to dismiss the board and brought operations under a direct joint management by Victor Harbor and Alexandria councils. And since elected members have been made aware of the financial situation in October 2025, besides myself, only 4 other elected members have raised concerns: Councillor Kemp, Councillor Crember, Councillor Mann and Councillor Schofield. I'm sure other members, if they looked at the financial statements, would be equally concerned. I believe the latest report downplays...
Sorry, Councillor Burns, are you suggesting that other elected members don't look at the financial statements?
No,
because they're not,
if
they looked at them, I'm sure all elected members look at financial statements that are given to them in the agenda. Just be careful.
And other than Councillor Schofield, who's on the board, I'm not sure, from what I can see, looking at the board minutes and the audit minutes, that the board fully understand the extent of their financial situation. And to Councillor Schofield's credit, she submitted a report to the board, and I'm not sure if that's been adopted or not. Looking at the result the last few years, the board and management appeared to be unable to deliver sustainable operations, and looking at the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, have failed to provide, I think, effective oversight. And for these reasons, I cannot support this report as presented. And I've got a motion in December coming up to engage an independent financial specialist to conduct a forensic report of the board, audit committee and management operations. And we have a workshop happening in December where the board hopefully will provide us with their recommendations and ideas on financial sustainability and governance reform.
Thank you,
then we'll be in a position to be able to make proper decisions to preserve the horse and tram as a sustainable community asset.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Burns. There were some inaccuracies in what you were saying, and I might ask the CEO to respond to them.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just correct. The council did not dismiss the Fleurieu Regional Aquatic Centre Authority. The council chose to establish a joint venture. In terms of it running at a loss, it is a council subsidised asset. And as with many of our facilities, like the library, they run at a deficit because our community facilities. So I think your statements that we dismissed them because of their losses, that was incorrect. That is not the reason why council actually established the joint venture committee.
Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Schiller.
I have a question regarding the recommendation that Councillor Mann put forward, I think it was last meeting. Are we basically putting all of that on ice for now?
No, this is a separate recommendation. This is the Horse Tram Authority's first quarter budget review, and the noting that we're requesting financial support with a workshop to be held in relation to that. My recollection is the recommendation at the last meeting was in relation to lobbying the government for support for the horse-drawn tram, and perhaps once this recommendation has gone through, I might ask the CEO to give us an update as to where the advocacy is up to in relation to the sign that was going to be put up in the horse-drawn tram and that sort of thing. But if we stick to this one now, it's quite different. Any further discussion? Councillor Kemp, and then you'll be closing debate, Councillor Mann.
Yes, I suppose I won't be supporting this recommendation due to the fact that if we accept it as stated, are we sending a message to the Horse Tram Authority that, council will accept all your budget reviews, irrespective of what the deficits are, what your cash flow is in the negative, etc. Again, I hope the workshop will bring some fruit to bear, that we can actually see some improvements in there. But this has been an ongoing process since I've been in council for 7 years. And I thought putting a Section 42 in place would actually drive the tram more in a property area. The VIP centre was another great idea and concept, but that hasn't quite gelled as they expected it to be. So to me, it seems to me that the authority is bleeding. And I think, by accepting these reports that we're virtually saying that's okay, don't worry about it, I'm looking forward to the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to you, Councillor, before I go to you, Councillor Mann, Kelly wanted to say a couple of things. So
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just in terms of this particular agenda item, the Horse Tram Authority is required to do its budget review. It's required under the Charter to provide it to Council. It can change its budget with Council's approval. Obviously, that's why this report is coming up. In terms of the budget review that has been presented, the main changes are they have reduced their operating expenses to try and offset some of the issues that they're having. They've also reduced their capital expenditure to help with their cash flow. So the main impact in terms of this budget review is a reduction in their income, which is from the VIP experience and also casual and group bookings, which are also down. They're having a lot of cancellations of group bookings because the group bookings aren't getting enough to warrant them doing those, bringing down the groups. So the main change within this budget review is actually a reduction in income, which potentially was a little unrealistic or optimistic in terms of growing that, offset again, of course, by the algal bloom, which has probably impacted how much income they can bring in. So if Council chooses to approve this request as presented, what you're acknowledging is a reduction in the income that they are forecasting for the year, but they've also tried to reduce their expenses ahead of that workshop to see what happens in the sort of short term and longer term going forward.
thank you. Councillor Mann, you'll be closing the debate.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. I guess just a few other points to raise is that I think there's a few things I particularly appreciate Councillor Burns' intent around wanting the horse tram to be successful in the future. And I think that whilst I disagree with a few of the things said, and I think there was a few inadequacies I picked up, I think my understanding was Councillor Schofield's report she presented to the board was just around merchandise sales, not the entire thing. So I think we got to be careful around, I guess, what we're saying and how we're using things. But I think that in terms of Councillor Kemp's point about us, just accepting and agreeing, to what this is, I think you'll also note that last month, and again, they've come back asking for that additional contribution of 170,000, and we're yet to provide that to them or provide that offset. So it's not just us willfully accepting it and turning around and saying, no, we want to have a workshop, have an open discussion with you and look at, okay, what are these challenges? How can we find a way through them? And let's all get back on the same page, because I think part of the breakdown of communication and some of the understanding has led to some of the narratives changing. But I don't think they particularly were changing. I think it was just the communication and some breakdown there. But I think having that first step of coming together and looking at, okay, well, how can we find a way forward? I think it's great to hear that the state government is now engaging with administration around looking at some funding for the horse tram. It's a pity that we had to make a song and dance and threaten to put up a sign for them to come to the party, but I hope that can help offset some of these costs, and that can be and that the state government can be a genuine partner in such a significant tourism asset. So I'm happy to support this motion, and I do want to thank the board for their work, because they are working in difficult circumstances, and I know they are trying as hard as they can. But I think with Section 41, 42s, it is a learning curve for everyone, and it's a learning curve for council as to how we deal with a subsidiary, which is a business, but a community business. So it might not make as much money, but it's kind of like a library, but kind of not. And I think this is a learning opportunity for everyone. But I think the more we can come together and work our way through it, the better.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. That closes the debate. I'll now put that recommendation A and B to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Excuse me. Beg your pardon? Oh, Councillor Quinton.
Just had a question on notice, please. Just following up regarding my nomination for the Dog and Cat Management Board. I was wondering if administration could follow up with them again to see where it's at, because I'm aware that the clock's ticking and I'm down to the last part of my term now and itching to get cracking with it. So if you could, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'm sure they would, and we're just about to come to questions without notice. So matters of urgency, are there any questions on notice? No? Questions without notice? You've just said your one. Yep. Any other questions without notice? No. There are no motions on notice. There are, we've done that, the public litter bin. And there's a motion on notice regarding the Arts and Culture Precinct from Councillor Mann. Councillor Mann, would you like to propose your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, this motion is in light of the incredible success of the inaugural TEDx Victor Harbour event that combined the cinema, town hall and surrounds, that administration formally thank the TEDx Victor Harbour organisers for their fantastic work and investment in our town, investigate and provide a budget bid for consideration as part of the 2026-27 budget, outlining short-term improvements and enhancements that can be made to the Main Street arts and culture facilities to improve their use and attract more events, and further identify larger, medium to longer term projects that will enhance the amenity and activation of the arts and culture precinct, whilst we wait to be in a position to fund the full redevelopment of the precinct, and for the identified projects to be considered for inclusion as part of a future review of our long-term financial plan.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burns, thank you. Councillor Mann, do you want to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I had the absolute privilege of attending the inaugural TEDx Victor Harbour event at the cinema and town hall, and it was honestly fantastic to see how they combined and with the assistance of administration, combined the spaces perfectly to have a flow out from the bottom cinema into the town hall, where there was food, where there was different stalls, and even the sort of dark shady alley in between was activated and had, Moira Jenkins, she had some what were they? Some lanterns she brought back.
I think I bought back about 100 lanterns from Hoi An when I last visited Vietnam. So there were Vietnamese lanterns.
It was perfect. Just things like that, which were so little and as I understand, a bit of a scatter of, what can we find to put in, just really enhance the amenity and use, and created a picture of how we can better use those spaces to deliver things. I think whilst we do have grand plans for our precinct, and pre-COVID, I think they were $20 million plans, and they're probably going to be a lot more. I guess my concern is we don't want to just do nothing with that space whilst we wait, because it may be the case that, we know how hard it is to get state and federal funding, and it might take longer than our current 9 or 10 year plan to get that to fulfill the whole facility. But I think there's a lot of short to medium term work we can do in the interim to improve the accessibility and utility of the space. There's probably medium term projects we can do to increase revenue and attract better performance spaces and allow for the cinema to be used without having to do the full redevelopment. So this is really speaking to that, thanking TEDx Victor Harbour for investing in our community. And as I understand, it's going to be an annual event, which will continue to attract a lot of people and thought leaders from around the state or even the Australia. And I think it's a good use of how we can be looking at the arts and culture precinct moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. And certainly the TEDx was the first regional TEDx in South Australia. Usually they're held in the city, and this one was in the region. And there were people that came over that I spoke to from the Northern Territory, from Victoria and from New South Wales, had heard about it and come especially over it. Tickets for TEDx, tickets are limited the first time they have it to only being allowed to sell 100 tickets. If it's a successful event, then the licensee is able to sell, I think in the second year, 250 tickets. And if that is a successful event, then it can go to 500 tickets. So the license is very strict in terms of what the licensee can and can't do. But by all accounts, the first TEDx in Victor Harbour was an absolute success, and it would be great to see it return. The seconder for that is Councillor Burns. Did you want to speak to?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supporting this as well. I think any initiatives we can do in Victor Harbor that raise our profile and bring events and people to Victor is a good thing. I'm hoping that with more and more of these going, if eventually the Anchorage can sort out its project and we get accommodation as well, we should have a lot more events happening if we can provide accommodation as well, which will be good. So looking forward to seeing where this goes, and hopefully it ties into where the Anchorage development can also link as well, which will be good.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Henderson?
I'm very pleased to hear that Councillor Mann has experienced that connection of those buildings. We have had a couple of art show openings that have actually done that previously, and it does give us an insight into what the Arts and Culture Precinct could be in the future. The art opening events connected not only the cinema and the town hall, but also the Coral Street art space. And it is, even though it's that laneway connection, it can be used very effectively in that sense. So I'm glad you got that experience.
Any further discussion? Don't want to close, there's no debate really to close, Councillor Mann. I'll put that to the floor. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any motions without notice? Councillor Mann.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. So my motion notice is in relation to the kind of urgent, but kind of not. There's consultation closing tomorrow for a code amendment. And the motion is the City of Victor Harbor expresses their utmost disappointment and frustration with the South Australian State Government's lack of genuine engagement with our community's concerns regarding the Accommodation Diversity Code Amendment, and that administration invites the government to come down here and engage with our staff and community regarding our concerns, and administration submit a further response strongly advocating against 4 to 6 story retirement villages being allowed throughout every corner of our town without any consideration of the strain they place on our local health, medical and social services and infrastructure.
Seems to be pretty clear. It doesn't involve a budget, and I'm happy to accept that if somebody would like to second it. Councillor Burns, thank you. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Mann?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, this is in relation to Accommodation Diversity Code Amendment, which I imagine a lot of people in the community probably aren't following too much. Our planning system is changing so rapidly over the years that it's very hard to keep up. But effectively, council administration previously put in a very well researched, considered and exceptional response to the state government's Accommodation Diversity Code Amendment. And it was specifically looking at what the state government's trying to do is just pretty much allow what I would describe as a bit of a free for all on 4 to 6 story retirement villages just being plonked anywhere around the state. And some of the responses our administration put in was that when a new retirement village is proposed, that a relevant authority looks at the area's existing capabilities and services and actually considers what impact a new retirement village would have on our local health, medical and care services and social infrastructure. Also, a community impact assessment investigation be considered alongside the formal development application. That a 4 to 6 story retirement village is significantly higher than the homes in the 7 established residential zones in Victor Harbor. Also, that a blanket policy such as this needs to be given serious broader assessment considerations, including height, scale, land use intensity and services, and that the continued push for retirement living is outdated against the wellbeing indicator research that has found that intergenerational neighbourhoods and living is better for a person and community's wellbeing. And effectively that response, as I understand it, was effectively blatantly ignored by the state government, where they've implemented none of our suggestions or made any changes to what I would describe as broad stroke horrendous planning law. You know, we had residents in Hope Street and in Canna Bay complaining about 10 new units being built in their street. Well, under the state government's code amendment, a 4 to 6 story retirement village could be built in their street. The state government wants to allow 6-storey retirement villages to be built in the Hills neighbourhood zone, which, as I understand, is part of the consultation that closes tomorrow, which is pretty much all the residential land in Encounter Bay and Central Victor. And because the state government ignored our previous submission, they already can allow 4 to 6-storey retirement villages in Victor's 6 other planning zones, which include the waterfront, all of Hayborough, on the McCracken Golf Course, and pretty much everywhere else but probably the Bluff and Granite Island. And as council has provided us with a map showing pretty much all the zones where it can be built. You know, the South Australian planning laws are effectively getting out of control and continually stripping communities of the basic right to shape the towns where they live, and doing it all in favour of, I would say, ill-considered, ill-planned and highly lucrative private developments. What we're simply asking for is that when there's new development, particularly around retirement living and those ones that place such a significant strain on our community, that part of the planning law should be to consider, well, can this community afford to provide that, to look after those people? Because we don't want a situation where new residents are looking forward to retiring in Victor Harbour and they get down here and there's a 2-year wait to get into a GP clinic or to be a patient, which is what a resident told me a few weeks ago. We don't want them having to drive to Adelaide for everything, or existing residents who have worked hard their entire life to serve our community, again, not being able to get in to see a doctor or to get the hospital or health needs. And I think all of this goes to that broader strategic aims around our future ready strategy, our UGMS, how we can lower our average age and we can build a multi-generational community that benefits everyone. But effectively, when we're fighting planning laws like this, it makes it much harder. So I think we need to push back, and we need to be instructing our administration to push back in the strongest sense. And we're going to need the community support, because the scary thing is that the only protection that or only pushback that the community has is the council, and we have very little planning powers or any protection. So hopefully this is a start, or this is a continuation of something that we're going to be ramping up over the future years. But I strongly hope that elected members support this motion.
Thank you very much, Brenton. And yeah, there's some quite poignant things in there that are really important to our community. Councillor Burns, did you want to speak to this as well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I believe we're at a crossroad. Victor Harbour has a fairly unique character, and you can do development that is still sympathetic to the environment and the character of the town. I have seen firsthand what this type of development does in both Victoria and New South Wales, and it doesn't end well. And once you open the floodgates, you really can't turn back time. And I think we've got to fight hard and to try and keep development controlled and planned around the desires of the council and the community, not really that it is skewed more for developers' benefit. So I'm supporting this, and hopefully everyone else does as well.
Does anybody want to speak to this? Councillor Kemp?
Yes, I'll be supporting this. I think the merits of the debate, the argument is quite strong. There's only a couple of things I'm sort of a bit concerned about. One is that we're not just label the older people who tie up all the medical centres. It doesn't matter what age you are, it's very hard to get an appointment in the doctors in this town. So I think we need to be clear on that. Secondly, I don't want to see in our narrative that we're anti-retirees, because that's what seems to be coming across. I don't think we're going to be sending the right message to people either. So it's about getting a balance of accommodation for all people of all ages. So I think that's the narrative I think I would like to see more. But I do like what you've done, Councillor Mann. I think it's very good.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment? No? Councillor Mann, close debate.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jenkins. Yeah, I just to quickly add, I completely agree with Councillor Kemp. I think our town and our area is made up of a lot of retirees and an older generation. My grandparents are here. You know, I think we're doing this because of our older residents, and it's not just the current ones, it's the future ones, because I think we want Victor to be able to maintain that community essence that it has, where, you know, there's not the social issues that you find in other places. There's not the crazy amount of growth that you see in Mount Barker without the infrastructure to support it. And I think that comes down to it. I think the more that we can pitch this to our community is this, us trying to attract young people and retain them is about providing doctors and nurses and people to renovate your house and all of those things. It's how we create a balanced, sustainable demographic. And I think that's part of that narrative that we need to push. But it's very much, as a wills and estates lawyer, I have a very specific clientele, and they're the ones that are telling me about this stuff the most strongly and advocating against not being able to get into health services, not being able to get a doctor, and that's where a lot of my advocacy is coming from, because they would be the large portion of people that I come across, and it's a genuine concern of our older residents, and I think we have a duty to them to pick it up and run with it. And again, it's just a pity that the state government refused to ignore our administration and our attempts at engaging them in a considered and respective approach. And whether we're going to need to do town hall meetings across the region or find other creative ways to get them to actually come down here and listen to us, I think everything's on the table at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. And I think you're right in terms of, the wellbeing index always points to intergenerational housing as something that is a predictor of wellbeing. And I think we're at great risk of lessening our wellbeing if we continue to only service older people in the housing market in Victor Harbor. I now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. We're now going to be moving into confidential items, folks. So I'll be asking the gallery to leave. And while Lance packs up, we might have a 10-minute break, and then we will come back to started. And I'll just let you know, during the break, I got a email from Brenton Scott, who did the deputation. And he says to thank you all for making him feel welcome. He also said, I'm very happy that the original decision to remove the bin was reversed. Thank you for your support in the matter. One of the councillors summarised the matter well. The original decision was made with the best of intentions. I do agree with this, but felt that there was little research behind some of the bins selected for removal, but thank you all again. So just passing that on to you. Now we're moving into confidential items, and I'll just make sure everything's off and people who are meant to be here are... Sorry? Okay. All right, so the motion is being moved to go into confidence, and that we're satisfied the principle that the meeting be conducted in a place open to the public has been outweighed in the circumstances because disclosure may prejudice council's position in a negotiation. Moving that way, Councillor Henderson, seconding Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Now we'll wait.